All right, it's time for Unit 3, video number 1. So grab those vocab books, let's fill them out. All right, make sure you pause the video and copy all this down, and then I'll go over it. All right, our first vocab word is congruent triangles. That just means that triangles that are the exact same size and shape are congruent. Okay? And we've worked with the word congruent before, and hopefully you remember the symbol for congruent. Okay, well, our job this unit is to figure out ways to prove that triangles are congruent. So we have 3 different ways that we're going to study. The first one is transformation properties. Okay. The second one is using the distance formula. And then the third one uses actual sides and angles of the triangles to prove that they are congruent. So the SSS stands for side, side, side. SAS stands for side, angle, side. AAS is angle, angle, side. And ASA would be angle, side, angle. Then you have HL. Can you guess what that stands for? Well, if we're talking about triangles, it's actually for right triangles, so hypotenuse and leg. We'll get into this more later. We're going to be focusing on transformation properties today. We actually don't have any notes, we only have vocabulary words. So I guess that's good news. Okay, second vocab word, transformation properties. Well, we've worked with transformations already. Rotations, reflections, and translations are transformations. Well, it turns out that there are properties of transformations that help us prove that 2 triangles are congruent. So, turns out that rotations, reflections, and translations map all segments onto congruent segments. So, what that means is, if you look over here at triangle ABC, let's say that we translate it to the right and then down, and we end up with triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. Okay, well, because we used a translation, turns out that side AB, or segment AB, is congruent to segment A prime, B prime, using the transformation properties. So, side AB is congruent to side A prime, B prime. And AC, because we used a translation, AC is congruent to A prime, C prime. And you can probably guess that BC is congruent to B prime, C prime. So, with our properties, we now know that these 2 triangles are congruent because it was a translation. If we would have rotated this triangle and got this triangle, then all the sides would have been congruent to the original pre-image. Same with reflections. So anytime you do one of these 3 transformations, what you end up with, the triangle that you end up with, or whatever shape really, is the exact same shape as the one you started with, which I'm sure you probably already knew that. Okay, our last vocab word. Actually, it's abbreviations. C, P, C, T, C. And that stands for corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Well, that sounds really confusing. I agree. So let me break it down for you over here in the picture box. Okay, so it turns out if triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. Okay, so that means they're the same size and shape. If we know that that's true, then the corresponding parts of those 2 triangles, those are congruent too. So that means that because these 2 triangles are congruent, then we know that side AB has to be congruent to side ED. So we would say then AB is congruent to DE. And we know that BC is congruent to EF. So BC is congruent to EF. And that means AC is congruent to DF. So AC is congruent to DF. Well, there's other parts of this triangle. There's actually angles inside the triangle. So, turns out angle A would have to be congruent to angle D. So that's something else we can say. Angle A is congruent to angle D. And I'm sure you can come up with more. Angle B is congruent to angle E. Angle B is congruent to angle E. And one more. Angle C is congruent to angle F. So angle C is congruent to angle F. So what we did was we listed all of the corresponding parts. So AB corresponds to DE. AB corresponds to DE. BC corresponds to EF. BC goes with EF, and so on. And then you could talk about the angles too. A has to go with D. A has to go with D. So order matters in the way that this is written. Okay, we can get a lot from this statement right here. All right, well, I hope that was an easy video for you. All right, be sure to have yourself an awesome day.